Set up Rem versus Batman? Oh shit, wait, yeah, hold on, you can talk to that dude. Where's Mr. Batman at? Oh, there he is.
Do I know what everything ultimately depends on?
Yes.
Hold on, I'll see if I can get...
The nature of
I would say
reality.
for something to exist, I guess existence itself.
No, what does everything ultimately depend on for its being?
Existence.
No, that doesn't answer the question. What is that?
Well, can something exist without not existing? That's a law of identity you believe, right?
That's not, you're not, see what you're doing right now is because you're afraid to answer the question.
He's
You're
not
being
afraid.
evasive.
He's giving you an answer.
He's answered
Okay.
it 3 separate times.
What is the ultimate nature upon which all contingencies depend?
If
Bro,
I
you
say
can't
I
expect
don't
everyone's
know,
answer to be the
will
same.
that appease you?
I'm waiting for an answer. What is the ultimate nature of reality upon which all contingent statements depend?
Yeah, I said if I don't know, if I say I don't know, will that appease you?
I'm looking for an honest answer. Okay, what is your answer? What
Well,
is
I
the
gave you an
ultimate
honest
nature
answer. He just gave you
upon
3
which
different
all
answers.
contingents? All right, I'm just gonna have to turn this guy down so I don't hear him.
He just gave you
Okay.
3 answers.
I'd rather just
He can't mute people
continue
anymore.
with Mr. Batman because
What
I
is
don't want to get.
what is the
again.
ultimate nature of reality that
This
provides
guy's actually a
for
psychopath.
the meaningfulness or intelligibility of any contingent statement?
If I answer your questions, will you not mute me?
I'm waiting for an answer.
Okay.
Alright guys, I'm gonna ask you a
Okay.
question. Let's see
Okay,
how fast I get
did
muted.
everybody hear that? He says he doesn't know. Good.
Well, he's answered
Now-
you 3
After
separate
he-
Now
times.
you're going to have to sit there, and you're
Hi,
going to have to be
friends.
quiet as a non-Christian, because
What's the
any
discussion?
assertion that you make is without ultimate context. Therefore, there is no ultimate meaning to any statement of contingency that you make.
Can I ask you one simple question?
Yeah.
That's a stupid
Do
answer.
you realize the consequences of what you have just conceded to?
Yes. Now, can I ask you one
Okay,
simple question?
Good. Yeah. hmm
Okay. Do you use your observations to interpret the Bible?
Okay.
You got him.
Does
You
your-
got him.
does your question- Okay. All right. I'm gonna move down to the room.
Why
We're
aren't
gonna
you answering
we're
my
going to
question?
continue the
He just left.
conversation in the room below because we have too many drive-bys. I'll be
Oh,
down there.
Darth won't talk to you if
Everyone
he
else
can't
can
server
talk.
mute you.
That way
Oh,
to
God.
mute
He'll
people,
serve
you
you.
know?
We
got him, boys. We're going home.
You won. You won.
We got him, boys. We got him in the corner.
Hi, Darth.
Hey Darth,
It's
can I ask you a
Grant
question,
from
please?
yesterday.
Are you ready to converse like a big boy?
Yeah, I'm a big boy. I just want to ask a question or two.
No, I said, are you ready to debate like a grown-up?
Yeah, I'm ready to debate like a grown-up.
Okay. Do you realize that you previously haven't?
Sure, Darth. Can I ask you a question?
Is that an honest answer?
Yes, Darth.
Okay.
Can you tell me how you perceive the revelations of God?
How do I perceive it? With my eyes.
So, can you tell me how you can trust your eyes?
Why? Because God has ordained that I don't question the basic reliability of my sense perception.
Can you tell me how you can perceive God ordaining you to trust your eyes?
I don't have to perceive it. It just
No,
is.
it's circular. He said this yesterday, and
Yeah.
that it's not an issue because ultimately, circularity comes prior to any sort of notion.
Yeah.
Of course,
or
but that's
sorry,
true of all
yeah.
axiomatic beliefs.
Exactly,
That I automatically trust my basic sense perception is ordained of God.
Cool, so is mine. So how is your
Now, let me-
position
let me-
different
let
than
me-
mine?
Let me ask you that. So is yours. You told me you didn't know what the ultimacy of reality is.
Darth, please don't refer to conversations that we had weeks
Okay,
ago and
do
just
you know
focus
what
on this
the
one.
ultimacy of reality is?
No, it's not a
Yes,
phrase I've ever heard before.
Okay. What provides the ultimate context for any contingent statement that you make?
Can you please explain that statement more, Darth?
Okay, I think I made it very clear. What is the ultimate nature of reality?
I don't
Okay.
know how to answer that
Did you
question,
tell
Darth.
me? Did you tell me?
Darth,
the
please
other
don't
day
straw
that it
man
was
me.
rather- Okay, bye bye. Okay, listen, you're gonna learn real quick.
Can I
We're
talk?
not going. Listen, if you're not going to converse like
Yeah.
an adult Omni, you will be server muted. Okay. Now we've already had at least 4 instances where you don't conduct yourself like an adult. Okay. If you want to be cheesy, if you want to be sleazy, then the conversation is over. Now, in our first and our second debate, You didn't conduct yourself this way because you didn't realize what was going to hit you between the eyes. But now you're playing your little sleazy game. Well, I don't play by your rules. I play by my rules. Okay?
Darth, would you be willing to have like a private call with me in it and Destiny, so we're not constantly talked over by other people in this voice chat? I'm
We
seriously
won't be talked
interested.
over because I will mute anybody. And by the way, Destiny has been warned several times to conduct himself like an adult. And
I
he's
can't
not
get away
doing
from
that.
this,
No,
guys. I'm
Destiny
sorry.
would be
Darth,
me.
can
It
we
would just be
continue
you and
our
I.
Okay,
conversation?
Rem, there's no
Yes.
further discussion that's going to go on that issue right now.
Darth, can we
What issue?
continue our conversation?
Okay.
Not enough
Okay.
minerals.
Now, notice when I ask simple questions, people are entirely evasive.
Quantity insufficient. More
Can I just?
Can we continue the conversation, Darth, that we had in the other room?
insufficient.
What conversation is that?
Where I asked you, do you use your observations to interpret the Bible?
I'm not seeing who's speaking.
Because he has to
Friday
mute him.
night.
He already answered this. You guys are gonna try to catch him on a circular.
Yeah,
but that's
Fried,
irrelevant.
okay, are when you invoke observations, do they mean something in your
Why aren't you answering my question?
okay,
It's a yes or no.
okay, bye-bye.
You guys are straw manning him. Look,
Bye-bye. Okay?
so
Yeah,
you say
there's-
that God allows us to know that our eyes are ultimately a reliable source of knowledge, right? Darth, would you agree with that statement?
Are you trying to have a conversation with me?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, can you tell me what your worldview is?
Insufficient.
Honestly, I don't know if I totally adhere to I try to explore different positions, try to see the pros and cons of them.
Okay, everyone has a basic worldview, even if it isn't crystallized. Okay.
Right. Well, I'd say
Do
that
you believe? Okay, listen, sir. Listen, you're gonna learn
Okay.
real fast that I don't put up with childishness. Now,
no, I have a
okay,
delay on my
now,
end.
okay,
So,
you're going to be server muted very quickly.
okay,
Now-
go ahead.
Now, do you believe in God?
No, I do not.
Okay. Do you deny the existence of God or lack belief in God?
I am. My view on God and most things metaphysical. I believe that we can't really have any sort of knowledge of transcendental reality, including the existence of God, and
Okay, so you
concepts
lack,
like infinity.
you lack belief in God?
I guess so. I lack belief in God. I'd say that's correct.
Do you lack belief in God because God is not rationally justified?
I lack belief in God because I believe that ultimately any sort of knowledge that transcends our experience is going to be dogmatic in some fashion and is either going to be totally vacuous because we can't actually justify the rationality of a metaphysical entity outside of the system in which they're contrived. So it all becomes ultimately vacuous, and there's no way to argue against it. But I could conceive an equally other vacuous position that says that God doesn't exist and that there is no categorical ends and everything's totally hypothetical. And I would say that the person who believes in God would then have no way to argue against me because my position is equally vacuous.
Under attack.
Yeah.
So you're telling me that all of your assertions are vacuous?
No. I was saying that the reason I lack a belief in God is because I believe that position.
The
That's
dude
important
says
to me.
penis
I'm
every
gonna tell you,
time.
I'm gonna
Stop
warn
that.
you. I'm gonna
Muted.
warn you one more time. Okay?
Me?
Are you listening to me?
Me?
I ask you, yeah, you, Rem. When I ask you for a straightforward question, I don't need a community college soliloquy. Okay? Now,
It's hard because
if
people
you
talk.
do it again, you will be server muted. I'm asking you
Okay.
non-complex questions.
Okay. Go ahead. Ask it again, and I will.
Now, since you lack belief in God, how are you able to make ultimately metaphysically intelligible statements?
I deny that we can make metaphysically intelligible statements.
Okay, thank you. We're done. Okay?
Mineral quantity.
He denies that he can make
He got
metaphysically
muted.
intelligible statements, but that statement that he just made is metaphysically intelligible?
That's unfair.
That's self-refuting, so we're done. He just stepped on his own landmine.
Did you just mute him?
Yeah, I did.
You're such a dick, Doris. Fuck off.
Well, he simply said he made the following statement. Okay, he says he denies that any metaphysically intelligible statements can be made. Now, is that statement intelligible?
It's not metaphysically intelligible.
We didn't
No?
let him explain.
I guess you're pretty thick, edocratic. If he denies,
I just think we should hear people out, man.
statements can be made, then he can't make that statement. So the fact is, he's so obtuse, he doesn't realize.
This argument is like saying someone is like, do you think you can do calculus? And somebody goes, no, I don't think I can do calculus at all. And they go, if you can't do calculus, how could you say that you can't do calculus? Because that's calculus. Checkmate.
And we'll make it clear. We're gonna drop that thread about that obtuse one. He denied. He said we cannot make metaphysically intelligible statements. Okay. Well, then why did he say that then? That's self-refuting. It's game over.
Do you need to believe in God in order to make any statement make sense?
If one is going to claim that their predications are metaphysically viable and intelligible, they're going to need to provide what the ultimate context is that provides for the intelligibility of any stipulation, even one word. Okay?
Who the hell? Wait a second. Who the hell keeps screaming penis in the fucking chat and is acting like it was a kid?
No, I didn't see who was doing it. This will listen.
Someone's been doing it while you've been talking. I'm trying to find out who it is.
Okay, well, just everyone identify who's doing it, and I will send a notification to Unlap to have those accounts banned.
No, I can just see. If I could just see what it is, I'll ban it.
Okay. Isn't this amazing? These people come to the table and they want to make a claim. Well, I lack belief in God because blah 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 blah, and then they say, I deny that we can actually make metaphysically intelligible statements.
Okay, so you want them.
Yeah, but what were those statements? What was that statement? I mean, these people. It's amazing. They're just walking contradictions. Okay. So do we have any other skeptics in here who want to say that apart from the Christian God and the Christian worldview, you can make metaphysically viable statements? Amazing. We have 61 people in the room, and not one knuckle-dragging atheist can assert that he can make metaphysically intelligible statements.
Everyone's.
What do you consider to be metaphysical?
Metaphysical, the word meta means above, and physical, of course, means physical. It means that which is above nature, or that which ultimately accounts or is the foundation for that.
What's the foundation of nature?
You're asking me? The laws of logic are what reflect the mind and character of God, and including how he constructed this world. Okay?
All right. I can't really expand on that. I don't have any justification for laws of logic either.
Are you an atheist?
I'm agnostic is a better word.
Okay. Well, is any justification viable?
Not completely, no.
Oh, really? And how did you justify that statement?
I can't completely justify that statement.
Then why did you assert it?
Well, you can't assert much without presupposing things, can you not?
Is that true?
I think it to be true.
Okay, so basically you made those statements because you imagined them.
Yes.
And when you made that statement, did you imagine that?
Yeah.
I gotta get you in with Mr. Batman next.
I'm like, I thought he wasn't as stupid as, maybe I originally thought, but he asks me, why don't you believe in these? And I gave him an answer that is probably the most common answer in philosophy, and it has been such for like 300 years.
Yeah, so
which is
he
that.
I don't think he doesn't do philosophy, right? What he does is he has like I'm saying script, not as like an insult, but he literally has, I think, like a dialogue tree. This is why he asks so many questions. His goal is to get you to answer a certain question a certain way, and then once you've done that, he can ask you questions that all lead to his conclusion, and that's like his whole style of rhetoric, you know?
Right. Well, why even bother talking to him? It's like going up to the.
I don't
the
know,
hobo
dude.
on the
I
side
can't
of the street
resist.
That is spouting off racist shit and won't listen to anything that you say. And he'll just you know,
I can't help myself from. I don't know why these types of people.
Is Mr. Batman any better?
No, but he can't server mute usually, so I wish you could talk. He's crazy, dude. Oh my god.
I've messaged them both and say, hey friend, I just want to talk, and you know neither are responding to me. It's just because I understand his argument. God allows us to know that our eyes, because the circularity is clear. From
Yeah,
him
but the
saying
thing is that he
you
allows
can see
himself
it.
to be circular, but he won't allow
Yeah.
anyone else to be circular.
Right.
Which makes his position entirely
Right.
fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly. It's
But-
nonsensical.
But then anytime you tried to point that out, he keeps like a lot of the times when you ask him, so I think this is like really telling, right? When you ask him like, well, how do you perceive God's revelation? He'll just state something that God does. He doesn't actually answer the question. He'll be like, well, God makes his acts directly known through blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, well, how? How do you perceive it, right?
Well-
and then ultimately when you get him back to a sense perception thing, then he has to admit that his position is circular. But for some reason, he won't let you do the same. And if you back him into that, he'll mute you. Like, that's what he does.
Yeah, no, he's an idiot. That's just what it is, and it's not like someone is missing like some core part of his argument, or that there's some hidden premise that he's not revealing.
No,
he's
it's
laid
pretty
it out
clear
all-
he has no
yeah,
desire
he's
to
laid it
argue
on
in
the
good
table.
faith. Yeah.
He's just a fucking idiot. And so if anyone knows Darth Dawkins and he actually wants to sit down, and
No, he
discuss
won't.
with
He
me,
does not what he does.
Well,
he's just like
then
a
I don't know
Discord
why
celebrity.
People give him any attention.
Because I didn't know this until like a month ago, but people take like Discord servers, like the sizes and shit, like very fucking seriously. And the owner of that server is called Sass, and the dude has a massive fucking ego. And what they do is they'll let Darth stay in their server, and then they give him mod and shit.
Attract people.
Yeah, because they want to get more people in the server. And you see like Darth like brings a crowd. So like yeah, so mods will always like cuck themselves to give him like admin and shit on servers so that he can mute people.
No, I mean I can empathize with that because like I run a server and user count is important, yes, but I mean.
But when you're cucking
we do
yourself that hard,
purges.
that's pretty
Yeah.
fucking sad.
We send dumbasses to the gulags constantly. Like that kind of shit just does not fly in anywhere but that sort of place. It's just really bewildering. Like, because he spends. Does he does he have a job?
I don't know. I think he's retired. You can find YouTube videos of him doing this shit like 3 years ago. Like he does this shit. Like this is what he does all day long.
Does he think that this is how he's gonna get to heaven?
I don't know. I think honestly, I think he might actually be like mentally disturbed. Like that wouldn't surprise me if there was something going on.
Well, it's I don't know about that. It's really tough to label like someone
the
who
reason
has really outrageous beliefs.
No, but it's not the beliefs, it's the behavior is what I'm focused on. The beliefs are whatever. It's the idea that, like, I remember the first time I met him, when I came back the second time and had a debate with him, I walked into a random Discord and he was talking about it 6 hours later. Like, he does this shit all day, every day, 24/7. Like, he's always doing this. Like, I feel like there's got to be like some really unhealthy like pathology or some shit there. Like, there's no way that like a normal person would elect to do this, right?
Right, like someone first getting into philosophy, it's what's the effect called where when you start out in a certain field, you feel like you've got it all.
It's called. I mean, I know what you're talking about. The colloquial phrase I've heard is "mountain bullshit."
No,
It's when you've learned. It's when you've learned just enough to think you know everything, but you haven't learned quite enough to know how much you don't know, and you feel way overconfident. Oh, maybe you could be talking about Dunning-Kruger as well. Sure, yeah. Dunning-Kruger can work both ways, but yeah.
Yeah, and like I think he's in a perpetual state of Dunning-Kruger.
No, I don't
He
agree.
can't-
I think at this point, I think he knows what he's doing. I think he knows that he's arguing in bad faith. It's just like this is like something he enjoys doing forever.
Right. Right. Like
yeah.
it's. I don't get it. I really don't get it. Why? Like truly. Like I'd understand if he was trying to have like an actual rational conversation with people, but. I mean, no, it's absolutely nothing like that. He's just an idiot. Does he have supporters? Do people actually support him? Or what?
And I support the memes.
Right, they support the meme. So, is Batman like he agrees with him?
Batman is his own. I think he's a presuppositionalist also.
Right. I mean, his thing is Batman with a cross. That's his Discord like profile picture.
Nice.
Science and apologetics for all ages. This is his Twitter.
Yikes!
Jesus saves from hell. MrBatman.com. I liked a YouTube video. Richardson police officer lies to abolitionist.
Oh yeah, he's got like a Facebook and shit and like a YouTube channel.
Mr. Batman, sermon in the Batcave. For he says to Moses, I will have mercy on whom I have mercy, and I will have compassion on whom I have compassion.
The sad thing about Mr. Batman is apparently he had like brain damage because his house had like a mold infestation, and he like readily admits this and shit, but so I kind of wonder.
This guy like 60 years old or something?
No, I don't think he's that old, but he's like in his 30s or 40s.
Jeez. Can the atheist even reason? Wow, it's really just this whole Twitter feed is just really disturbing. He only has 25 followers though. That's good. That's one other thing I get. I don't get people who constantly tweet out when they have so few followers. Like, what's the point in doing that?
Oh, hey, listen, everybody's gotta start somewhere.
I guess so, but he's tweeting like 30 times a day.
Yeah, I don't know. He's probably fucking crazy, dude.
I guess, yeah, maybe. I'm always hesitant to call people crazy, but I mean, I don't know what you're supposed to... I don't know what you're supposed to say to something like this. Yeah, so that's dark. Is there anyone else? I'm gonna expose the crazies.
Well, they're crazy.
Those are the peak crazy.
Yeah, those two probably are, yeah. That I've heard of like, on Discord.
That's not too bad, actually. But that's okay. I mean, I've heard worse positions argued for, right? Like, at least he's not advocating for, like, the Holocaust. That's one good thing we can say about him, right?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know how he feels about Jews. I've never explored those positions with him.
Who's no bullshit?
Not. It's not even like a real human being, okay?
No bullshit. Exposing the bullshit on the internet. One video at a time. Also a style blogger. Oh, I see. He's anti-LGBT. Heatherly has a habit of pointing out people's Jewish mannerisms and being a Jew almost to the point of obsession. Something tells me the left is more Jewish. Holocaust revisionism, racialism, hiccup artistry, anti-LGBT. Wow. Oh,
there's
you actually did a debate with him.
Oh, I've done a few. They're really bad. They'll hurt you. Like you'll get physically hurt if you actually try to watch them.
I'm not gonna watch them.
Okay.
Don't worry.
There's a whole position on the internet that I've kind of like summarized like politically and almost philosophically. I just call them anti-SJWs. Are you kind of familiar with what I'm talking about when I say that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're basically people that think that like SJWs are taking over the world and are like the biggest threat to freedom in the West. You can also call them skeptics.
Modern neo-Marxists.
Yeah. A lot of people online that call themselves skeptics, ironically enough, fall into this batch of people. So, yeah.
Believe it or not, like people tell me to watch them. I don't enjoy watching idiots. Like, I don't mind sometimes talking to them because it's sort of it's more of like a what do you call it?
Mental exercise?
No, more. It's fuck. Oh, it's a morbid curiosity.
Yeah.
So
I think that's kind of how.
I
think that's
you.
kind of where I'm at. Fuck off. Where like I kind of just want to hear like,
yeah.
If Darth were to get like super backed into a corner, like what the fuck would he do?
If Darth were to get back in the corner, what would he do?
Yeah, like I'm kind of curious. Yeah.
Well, what he did yesterday, he left.
Well, I mean like backed into a corner without like leaving or without muting the person.
I don't know. I don't know what he'd do because once you get to the point where, like this, if anyone ever talks to Darth Dawkins, here's what you do. You can ask him, so how are our eyes reliable? And he says, because God makes it reliable. He makes our eyes a reliable source of knowledge. And then you ask, well, how do you know, like how is God able to do that? he says, well, through divine revelation, of course. Well, then how do you perceive divine revelation? How do you know this revelation? Oh, because you perceive it. And he'd say, okay, so you acknowledge that there's circularity. And he'll say yes. So you acknowledge that it's a vacuous position. And then he has to say yes. And then you say, okay, well then what about my own little vacuous position, like something like instrumentalism that doesn't allow for the possibility of God, but is totally vacuous? Why is my vacuousness somehow worse than your vacuousness? And if he, and what he will do, say because
God,
he'll refer to God, and then just gone. Well, obviously this conversation is going to go nowhere because your position is completely vacuous, and talking to anyone who doesn't agree with you is ultimately going to get you nowhere, and you're never going to convince anyone because your position's stupid, and vacuous positions are fucking dumb, and that's why logical positivism died. So there you go. That's the tip. There's no way to converse with him. It's impossible. It's not actual philosophy. It's dogmatic bullshit. It's kind of gross, actually. And honestly, I don't know. Maybe it's bad to even talk to him in the first place because it gives him attention, and I guess that sort of almost validates him a little bit, maybe. But. Or, I don't know. I don't know what the psychology on that is. I don't know if by talking to him you expose the bullshit or if it sort of reinforces it. I have no idea. Go either way, I think. Does Destiny read the chat and answer questions? Definitely. He's trying to revive Leibniz. No, Leibniz actually had he was willing to answer certain positions, and yeah, like for example, the idea of monads and the transcendental clockmaker, like there are actual arguments for that sort of go back to Aquinas and whatnot, but ultimately it is vacuous, and that's what Kant showed. Kant literally showed that we cannot have any possibility of metaphysical.
Are you fucking serious? This is literal fucking AIDS. I've got like 30 fucking mutant. I can't kill a fucking turret? Holy shit, it's so stupid.
I have no idea what's going on your screen.
It's just dumb fucking shit. Holy
Have you ever
fuck.
played EU4?
No.
Would you ever play EU4?
No, it sounds like a grand strategy game.
What about CK2?
Nope. What is that? Is it another grand strategy game?
It is grand strategy.
I'm a postmodernist, so I don't do anything with the word grand in it, okay?
That's a good one. That's actually a pretty good one. No, but with CK2, like you make your own little dude, and you like go around other kingdoms. You can fuck some bitches, and then kill people's daughters, and fuck more bitches. Have sex accidentally with your cousin. Make your
Destiny,
son
there is
accidentally
a video of
homosexual,
Darth
you fuck
losing
your
his
cousin.
mind in the debate
It's really good.
on your
It's a lot of
subreddit.
fun.
Don't know if
You can
you've
play out
seen
your
Unity.
hidden fantasies.
Pretty good meme.
Wow.
In game. Oh, and you should play cribbage. I know you play chess, but
I don't play chess. I know what the pieces do.
I've seen you play chess on stream before.
Yeah, I know, because I know what the pieces do.
Well, yeah, that's basically where I'm at. I know some
Okay.
like really good chess players, but I don't understand people who obsessively who will read books on how to be good at chess.
Well,
I
they
don't
really
get
like
it.
it. What do you mean?
Yeah, I know. I understand that, but it's not interesting enough for me. I've been indoctrinated by the new mainstream media, and I always need something new. Of course, I need instant gratification because I'm a millennial, and that's why I play things like CK2 and StarCraft. You saw him play Mr. Mouton and play chess, not play chess. I don't know what that means. Someone just said that I read books on philosophy, but I can't understand chess readers. You make a really good point. We should play cribbage sometime, Destiny.
What the fuck even is cribbage? I don't even know what the fuck that is.
Okay, look. Cribbage is the greatest. It's a card game, okay? But look, it's not push-the bullshit like Gin Rummy or Crazy Eights, okay? Cribbage is like actually the greatest card game of all time.
Oh
it's
my god.
Pure skill. It's very easy to learn. and I'd be willing to pay you like $100 if you beat me in cribbage on stream. I would probably do that. I'm very confident in my ability to play cribbage. I'm trying to like spread. That's part of the reason I
Mission
come on
statement?
here. Yeah,
To spread
exactly.
the good word of cribbage. Okay.
Exactly. I think it's a Canadian thing, maybe, but I know most people play it. Someone keeps pinging me over and over, asking why logical positivism died. Have you read anything on logical positivism?
I have no fucking idea what that is.
It's like, it's probably the most popular view in science right now, and it's the whole, well, there's a bunch of different forms of logical positivism, but...
Fuck! Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
The most famous...
What is it, like assert that we can like know ultimate truth or some dumb shit?
Well, no, it's saying, it's like intense empiricism. I think you'd like it actually, but sucks that it's wrong. But, so, verificationism says that a sentence is only meaningful if it can be potentially verified. So for example, when I say there's a bottle in front of me, I can say that that is verifiable because, you know, I can actually see the bottle in front of me. Therefore, that sentence has meaning. But if I were to say something like, oh, God exists, well, there's no logically possible case where I could verify that as being the case. So in reality, that's not a meaningful statement. And that applies to anything sort of metaphysical. Like, for example, that we have a soul and whatnot. It's not possible to verify empirically. Therefore, it's a meaningless statement, and we shouldn't bother ourselves with it. It's sort of it's similar to what Kant did in trying to limit or delineate the limits of our
knowledge,
possible knowledge of metaphysics. But this is a more empiricist take on it. And
I think that I, without having just heard of it,
yeah,
I feel like I could make some reasonable arguments for it for the layman.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
One of the biggest things that's kind of bothersome about philosophy is whether or not you like it, you practice it every single day. Right?
Yeah,
Would you agree
there's a
with-
whole question of, well, what do we want to call philosophy? Is everything philosophy?
Well, no, I mean everything that you do to some extent in terms of like how you value things, how you vote, how you manage your friendships, like all of these will root back to kind of like these fundamental positions that whether you've thought them out or not, you're acting on them, right?
Well, actually, interestingly, I think that a lot of the verificationists would probably disagree because, like, a lot of the early verificationists are moral anti-realists. They think that anything to do with morality is ultimately it's meaningless.
My dude,
like
this guy
that's where
seems
the
cool, and
expressivism
CK2
comes
is a fun
from
game.
in moral anti-realism.
Paradox
from a guy
has
named
continued to put out good content for it also.
Said that
Just
any sort
get
of
past the dated
when I say, for
graphics
example,
and
oh, I
into the
hate
game,
killing,
4 hours
that's
of
really
fun.
equal to saying, ugh,
Would
killing.
make my day
Well,
to see
sure,
you
but
stream
like,
some
so
CK2.
without getting semantic,
Wowee.
that is a type of philosophy, right? Like whether you call it anti-realism or not, like you're
Yeah,
making,
I guess so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
I
is,
see what
right?
you mean.
Yeah. So if something like logical positivism is easier for like a layman to grasp, which based on that explanation you gave me, it probably sounds like pretty intuitive. Like you could probably make an argument for introducing that to somebody as opposed to more complicated like Kantian shit or something, if that's something that somebody's less likely to take hold of and make good decisions with. Kind of like this is like a pragmatist view of philosophy maybe, but does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I think I can see where you're going with that. Like it definitely has its place in certain contexts, especially in the sciences, where science should be focused on empirical knowledge and whatnot, and anything outside of that we really shouldn't be called we shouldn't call it science and whatnot. But I mean, I can give you knockdown arguments against verificationism right now and falsificationism, which is
so these knockdown arguments, are these only going to apply to people that are like involved in the serious investigation of philosophical thought? Are they going to apply to every average day person?
To scientists. These are knockdown arguments, and they apply to scientists.
So like what?
So for the verificationist, if anyone here has done any predicate logic, but it's really not that complicated. We have, like, when I make a logical statement, there exists a water bottle in front of me, right? I can say there is some entity such that this entity is white and it's a water bottle and it is in front of me. Okay, that could be my statement, and I can clearly verify that because it's just calling for one entity and it meets my conditions. Boom, meaningful statement, bam. But it doesn't work for what we call universal statements or even general statements. Something like, well, for example, all ravens are black. We cannot actually verify that, even in principle. It's absolutely impossible to verify a universal statement. Statement like all ravens are black. Back to the ravens, I know. Throwback. It's impossible to verify because we can't verify the existence of every single raven being totally black.
Yeah, so this is kind of like what I was just talking about. Like what the logical problems that you're talking about right here, I think a person could go through their entire life without ever worrying about these, and it would have no detrimental impact whatsoever to them as a person. Or even if they're involved in like serious like scientific investigation.
I don't, especially in science, I don't think that is true.
Can you give me an example of how this would play out, like in a scientific scenario where, like, oh god, like I'm actually fucked because I haven't considered this thing?
Well, like if you look at, for example, well, really, I appeal to Kuhn in this sense that this notion of verificationism hasn't been the actual method that people have used, throughout history. And throughout scientific progress, and that ultimately, if all we focus on is verificationism, what we'll eventually arrive at is a state of essentially no scientific progress, because all we're trying to do is verify statements, and you run into this issue of, okay, well, how much is enough to know that our universal statements are going to be verified? It becomes almost probabilistic, and this is especially true for because people eventually abandoned verificationism, and that's only one issue with verificationism. There is tons of issues. Like the Ravens Black example has in its own, isn't Red Shoe verifying that statement? Blah 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 blah. I explained that before in our first discussion or second discussion. But another one would be verifying past statements. That's a huge issue for verification. I forgot about that till just now. How do we verify things that have happened in the past?
By what we observe in the present, or?
But the verification criterion says that we have to have actual perceived knowledge of the empirical entities that our sentences refer to. So, for example, how can I verify the statement that I saw a water bottle on my table a minute ago? Well, I can look at my memory, but that's not really something that is, well, if we want to call it an empirical thing, like our neurons or whatnot, whatever we want to call memory is, and that goes into like a really complex issue of philosophy of mind. But then what do we do about unreliable memories? How do we choose between two people who say that, their memory is better than another person's memory? And ultimately we can't. So that's
but we use other instruments to measure this kind of stuff, right?
Well, again, so then we're adding a ton of qualifiers. So we have to then amend our verifiability criterion in order to meet those sort of conditions. And it becomes really complicated. And eventually people just abandoned it and they moved to Popper's notion, which is falsificationism. And I think that's what most modern day scientists use. And what a lot of people I know in your chat love is falsificationism. And it's basically that. And this is, well, ultimately, Popper doesn't believe that we can ever have any we can't say for sure that something is going to be meaningful. And verificationism isn't a criterion of meaningfulness like verificationism is, because we can't have ultimate knowledge of something. But the big issue with falsification, we can only corroborate certain sentences. But the biggest issue with falsificationism, which calls for us to try to prove something wrong, is that it runs into the same issue as verificationism, trying to verify universal statements, but the falsificationist can't falsify an existential statement. For example, that there exists one raven that is white. or that there exists one alien on some planet. It's impossible to even logically falsify something like that, because we can go through everything over and over and over again, and we can absolutely never falsify it, even in theory. So that would mean that all of our statements about singular items are going to be true. So when I say there exists an alien on some planet in the galaxy that isn't a human being, we would have to then say that that is true, because there is no logical place where we can falsify it. So seemingly that is, sorry, my bad. The fact that we can't falsify it means that it's ultimately going to be completely useless, but we tend to have this intuition that we can say things about existential statements, and that we can say that there is some life on some planet in the galaxy, and that we want to say that that is something meaningful or something at least relevant to science, but we can't do that using falsificationism. And I think those are really the knockdown critiques of logical positivism, and why I think that we need to move away from something like logical positivism and move to a more subjectivist approach to science. You know, you could do a Bayesian sort of thing. You could do Reichenbach's approach, but I don't think it's entirely relevant. Honestly, I've grown a bit tired of the whole discussion, and I've definitely bored people now. So there you go.
Yeah, I think the problems you run into sometimes in the philosophy realm is that it feels like a lot of what you say is only going to come up in investigations of like philosophy. I think it would help if you could like list out like, well, here's like a very real problem. Say a biologist or a doctor is trying to solve something and you actually can't do it, guys. See how difficult this is as a result? I think that those types of statements would resonate better with people in terms of if you're trying to be persuasive, at least. Or at least that's what I have problems like understanding.
For example, like I think a lot of scientists would like to say that the statement that there exists some alien on another planet is a meaningful statement, but
yeah, but again, present like this: if it is or isn't, it's not really. Who cares? Like, I don't think this is something that like impedes scientific progress or anything like that. You know.
I don't know if I agree with that, because ultimately the falsificationist criterion, that is what science should be. It should be entirely about falsification, and it's not going to be. We're not going to go through any sort of radical changes in science if we ultimately try to stick to constantly falsifying our own theories over and over and over again. And this is what my again, I wrote a paper about this like a while back, and I simply argued that, if I can find it, I argued that. Oh, that's not the right paper. I argued that we would get into a state of what Kuhn called crisis science, and we wouldn't actually do any normal science. Because what is the scientist's duty then? Is it to falsify everything? Because not everyone adheres to, Popper's theories about how we ought to operate in the sciences. People don't really listen to Popper's cries about how we ought to be falsificationists. And I think that if we did follow what he tries to argue how we should, then we'd we'd live a really awful life, because our society really wouldn't be progressed. We'd be so caught up in trying to falsify our initial axioms that we forget that a lot of the greatest sort of technological advances came from abandoning our theories of science, abandoning our our conservative methods of science, and allowing our social factors and religious beliefs and political beliefs sort of interfere with the scientific method. Like, the greatest example is something like the Copernican revolution, where, no one at the time, I've said this before, it's not accurate. The Copernican approach to science, or to planetary motion, it wasn't as accurate as the Ptolemaic model. It couldn't account for something like parallax, and it wasn't as accurate. We couldn't predict as many things at the time, but ultimately it was more romantic is really what it was, and it was more attractive. It was something different. And that's really what got people attracted to it, and that's why people started to really seriously consider it, rather than wanting to constantly just try to verify or falsify everything. And no, I'm not I'm not arguing in favor of like fire up and that anything goes in science. That's not what I'm doing, but yeah, it's a tough subject to talk about, and it's a really tough subject to sort of reduce down without using terms that become really complex. So I think that's why a lot of people don't like, like a lot of people in here are like, but Kuhn says the objective truth actually changes with time and society. No, that's not. People who, like, originally, Kuhn believed in what are called these actual metaphysical paradigm shifts, where when we undergo a change in science, like for example from Newtonian mechanics to Einstein's theory of relativity, that the actual world shifts. The way that we look at the world shifts. Or like for example, between the pre-Socratics and modern atomic theory, the actual world shifted based on how we perceive the world. So at one point in time, it would have actually been correct to say that the world is like made up of water, for example. But that's a really radical view that he quickly took back. And so I would not accuse Kuhn of holding that view anymore, especially. Yes, he did imply that the actual objective world shifted. He did do that, yes, but then he completely backpedaled on that point because he realized that it was too radical for people. I'm not really sure about that. I'm not really sure about that.
Unacceptable.
Man, you are... What's the point of StarCraft? I don't even know what you do.
Yeah, me neither sometimes.
It moves too fast that it's a bit... Jeez. The dude who's talking about it has such an unfortunate game. Do you believe in the theory latenness of scientific observation, since you're a Kuhn boy? Yes, I do. I do believe. Or do you mean value latenness versus theory? Because if so, yes. I absolutely do. I absolutely do. I think that I think that value's absolutely... Oh, sorry. Theory laden. Right. Not value laden. Yes, I do believe in theory latenness. Yeah. I would say that's right. Duhem, I think, sort of proves that. No, I don't have a PhD in philosophy. I should stop saying Kuhn. I should really stop saying Kuhn. What's my background? I'm a specialist, which isn't a postgrad degree. It's an undergrad. Top 3 favorite games. Cribbage, and cribbage. Destiny, stop playing shit StarCraft and play cribbage.
Yeah.
I'm serious.
Alright, you can argue with this guy, okay? This guy wants to talk about psychological egoism.
Oh no. Okay.
Go to the Discord room.
Psychological egoism.
Alright, good luck.
Hello?
Hey, how's it going?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you?
Let me, I'm getting 2 sounds. I'll turn off the stream.
Oh, okay. Well, first of all, like, what's your background in?
So, I'm a university student in computer science.
Cool.
I do enjoy all forms of politics and philosophy.
Right. I wish I could say the same about computer science, but I absolutely hate computer science.
That's fair.
Yeah. I was more to engineering than computer science. So you're a psychological egoist?
So, well, it's kind of weird saying you're a psychological egoist. It's like saying.
Sorry, wait. One sec. I feel rude for saying this, but Destiny, Mr. Batman just said he wants to do a private call.
Oh shit! Tell him he can join my Discord. It'll just be you and him, and then I'll moderate if he wants to.
Okay.
You can do it after.
Do you want to do this after?
Yeah, we'll do it after. Yeah, we'll do this.
Okay.
Fine.
Sorry. So, can you repeat? Are you a psychological egoist?
So psychological egoism is like an empirical theory. So it's just describing the state of the world. It's not making any claim about moral actions.
Yeah, it's not making. It's a descriptive theory. It's not normative. I agree.
Yes. And it sort of contrasts itself with ethical egoism, which says people ought to act selfishly, right?
Well,
So-
a lot of ethical egoists use psychological egoism to justify.
Yeah, but that feels a little weird to me because you're saying essentially that people do act selfishly and that they ought to, and you're like, okay, but then if they always do act selfishly, then how do you say that they ought to because they always do? And I think there's another word for that one.
I don't know. I don't know.
But the key idea is that instead of making moral claims, you're basically like I have the position that the worldview that I find most convincing is.
Sorry, is he cutting out for you? Oh no, fuck, it's on my end. One sec.
Fucking idiot.
Okay, hi. Can you talk again? Okay,
Yes.
my internet just went out a little bit. Okay.
So my key thing is the worldview that I find most convincing is the one that makes the best predictions.
Okay.
Which, is what I like. I think it's a useful worldview. It's a very pragmatic worldview. So for me, psychological egoism is just a understanding of the world that makes very good predictions. So I can say that most of the time people act selfishly, but I can also say that there's also empathy in there because of like evolutionary psychology reasons and stuff like that.
But psychological egoism, it's a universal claim about the nature of every single human being. So I'm unsure, because I can imagine countless cases where, and this is what it's going to devolve into.
Yeah, no,
It's
it
become
always goes down
semantic.
this way. We're like, oh, okay, here's a claim of some guy who jumps over a grenade, and here's a claim of some guy getting charity. And then the psychological egoist will say, well, if he didn't want to do it, then why did he do it?
Right, and you're just describing a theory of desire. You're not describing. Yeah. So.
Okay.
Then
So it's a bit
what's
of
there to talk about?
It's a very useless term, really, but it does have some interesting implications.
Right.
And that, like making moral judgments becomes a little harder.
How so?
Because if somebody acts, like if somebody commits a crime, right? If somebody steals something, well, then the psychological egoist will say, well, why did he do it? And then you would come up with like poverty, culture. It's not like, it's very hard to put blame on somebody. There's no justice. There's always a cause and explanation for every single decision.
That's a very determinist sort of approach, but I do get what you're getting at, yeah.
And it's, you don't need free will or anything like that. So everything, like the justice system becomes basically a very, like you do it for discouragement, prevention, and rehabilitation instead of justice, right?
Right, and do you have an issue with that?
No, I'm definitely for that.
Oh, okay.
Like I don't like it when people say we should punish this person because of justice, right? Or
right.
Usually justice aligns very well with
revenge,
discouragement.
Oh.
Yeah. But not always.
Right. So I don't know if we disagree here. I think
we probably don't.
I don't know what we're discussing.
Well, okay. I heard and in the previous topic that like Destiny was like an ethical egoist. Like,
oh, you want to try to drive him off of ethical egoism?
Yeah.
Oh,
People
okay.
ought to act selfishly.
Wait, you think that?
No, Destiny, from what I understood, takes a bit of that position, but I'm not entirely sure. So.
I don't think he does. I think Destiny, and obviously correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think you really care what other people do. You just describe yourself as acting in your best interest.
When you say I don't care what other people do, by that you mean I don't care to make moral statements about other people's actions?
Yes.
Correct.
Right. So I don't think he's an ethical egoist. I think that Destiny is still, for some reason, a moral anti-realist.
Hell yes.
And I don't think any appeal to any critique of ethical egoism is going to drive him off. Because if you tell him, for example, you know, if ethical egoism is right, then if everyone tries to act egotistically, then it's going to be worse off for everyone. Well, then he would just simply say, okay, then ethical egoism's stupid. Just do what works best for everyone in some political society.
Yeah, and that is true. So I would say that if everybody acts in their own self-interest, you can create like a tragedy of the commons scenario, where basically, let's say you have a fishing scenario where everybody's overfishing. So I would say that if everybody's overfishing, and then one person says, well, I think it's immoral to overfish. They would say, like, I would say, okay, they can, in the same time, say, let's all not overfish, because that would be better off for everybody, and still overfish, and it wouldn't be hypocritical.
Right.
So, like, you see people, like, I saw a video a bit ago, like, from Steven Crowder, for example, where he basically said, leftists are hypocrites, right? Because, and some of his examples were, look at Leonardo DiCaprio preaching environmentalism while in the same time riding private jets, right? And he says that's hypocritical. But my point is, no, people will act selfishly, and I can't really fault them for that. But they can simultaneously be for global positions that will act against, like a government-wide position that, maybe tax fossil fuels or something like that.
Acceptable.
Right. Well, I don't know. I don't know if anyone here is going to disagree.
Probably not.
Okay. What are we debating?
Shit, man. Do you believe in the social contract?
No.
Okay.
Well, sort of. I don't know. Like, what do you mean? Do I believe that? Do I believe in, like, a political form of social contract?
Well, okay, so the social contract, like, I'm not sure if I understand fully, but, like, it's this idea that instead of a government being just like a force, it's something that it's a service that you're purchasing. It's like I will pay taxes and relinquish some of my freedoms in exchange. I get some of these benefits and protections.
Right.
So that's the contract.
Do you think we tie that to an ethical sort of? Is there a moral obligation? Then do our moral obligations come from a social contract?
No.
Right.
It's usually just how I debate, like, libertarians, for example. Just say, hey, like, you view the government as this, like, evil that is imposing upon you, but I'm like, well, it's a regional monopoly, and it's an inevitable part of people's behaviors. And it's good, I like it.
Right, well, I'd agree that we need a social contract, and for any sort of major normative theory at the moment, the social contract's going to be present, or else everyone's probably going to be behaving immorally. Maybe not for the deontologist, but definitely for the consequentialist, definitely for the virtue ethicist. Or you can be a Marxist, I guess, and think that. But I'm not a revolutionary Marxist, so I wouldn't be able to disagree with you.
I have a question. Do you
Okay.
Acceptable.
Yep.
Why?
Because I didn't want Doug Ford to be Premier of Ontario.
But do you also acknowledge that your single vote is unlikely to change the outcome of an election?
Well, one, no, that's not true. There are many cases where single votes within a certain margin become a deciding factor. But that sort of thinking is what leads to, if that's the way that if that's how everyone thinks about everything.
That's some real utilitarianism in there?
Well, yeah, exactly, yeah. So what you're saying right now is more of like an act utilitarian sort of thing without realizing the actual greater outcomes of it. And also, you can do the deontological thing. You imagine, well, if everyone did that. It's the whole, like, I have a friend in my
Thanks
server.
for responding to my
KG,
email.
here's your shout out.
I sent you a
Who
response.
took a rock
when you get a
from
chance, if you could
Machu
take a
Picchu.
look.
And I yelled at him, and I called him a dick, because I wasn't overly serious about it, of course. But look, you're not supposed to take things from natural landmarks. You're not supposed to, okay? So if you're going to Machu Picchu, don't take any rocks, okay? But ultimately, you do imagine if everyone took a rock from fucking Machu Picchu, well, there wouldn't be any Machu Picchu. And that's a net harm for everyone. The single amount of pleasure or happiness that you get from taking that rock is going to be outweighed if you suddenly realize that you're setting an unhealthy precedent for everyone else, and that in turn is going to create a net benefit for you, or a negative net benefit for you. And it's the same thing with not voting. And that's why you should vote, because by not voting, you're sending a message to other people that, okay, well, if you're not voting, then maybe there's not really a reason why I should be voting either. And you get into this mentality where a single vote doesn't count, and then you get someone like Trump, or you get someone like Hillary Clinton if you're a Trump supporter, even though that didn't happen. So why do you not? Do you
bad
think
example,
that
because your individual vote actually didn't really matter for Clinton because she won the popular vote, but your point still stands.
That's true. Yes.
I live in California. My single vote wouldn't affect anything like that.
But again, no, that's just not true. If you weren't thinking like that, and you told other people that you shouldn't be thinking like that.
No, but you see here.
I don't know why you're
point.
delineating it like a state line sort of thing.
No, okay, but if I'm telling somebody that they should vote, right? They ought to vote. I'm making some sort of. On what basis am I saying they should?
Well, whatever normative theory you're operating under.
Okay. Yeah, no, I preferred it if every single person voted. I would prefer it, so I would want it to be maybe some sort of mandatory or fine, or maybe just have a holiday, make it easier, make it so it's less of a burden, because I don't trust in people's idea of duty or stuff like that.
Right.
But if I'm telling people that they should vote, I'm saying that they should act as a collective.
No, not necessarily.
Because any individual, it's not necessarily in the best interest to vote. It's unlikely to affect anything. They'd probably be better off working or.
No. Again, I just went through why that's not the case. It is in everyone's best interest for themselves individually to vote, because by not voting, you're sending a message to other people. Whether or not you directly do that or not, it is sending a very unhealthy message.
A single individual message will be unlikely to make a difference, too. You're taking, let's say, 2 hours of your day for this tiny little message. Maybe you're just doing it anonymously. You don't have to tell the world that, hey, I voted. But, that's what the stickers are for. So, it's kind of like a self-delusion, saying my vote actually matters, where it's unlikely, and especially probably in Canada maybe it matters more, but in the US with our voting system it really doesn't, in certain locations at least.
No, let me give you an example. Let's say that we live in some weird utopian society where we have this giant water tower and it has all of our water in it, and it's built upon this stone foundation that's made out of a bunch of stone blocks, and there's millions of them. And one day you go and you take a block because you think, well, look, my block is not going to make it fall over. But then someone else comes along and says, oh, look, someone took a block. And there could be any reason how they justify this themselves. They can say, well, if they took a block, then I also deserve to take a block. You could think that, well, if they took a block, then obviously, then no one else is really probably going to do it. I'm just, we'll sort of be the only two that do it. Or they could think that, well, ultimately maybe nothing bad is going to happen. Whatever their thought process is, it starts a gradual decline. And eventually you will get to the point where the water tower collapses. And it's silly to say that no blame of that falls on the person who took a block. Yes, the amount of blame is distributed in small amounts to everyone, but that doesn't mean that there's no blame to be had. And
so for like a tiny example like that, where it's just like taking a block, with the happenings you would gain from taking the block is very minute, and like the communal destruction that it would cause is very massive. I can see it. Like, I personally don't want to be responsible for harm where it's something like really stupid and superficial, like taking a rock, right?
Right. How do you not see that's the case with voting?
No, that's why, like, I never said I didn't vote, but it was kind of like a question to test your egoism levels, right? Where, like, I have empathy for a community, like, I value a functioning society. It makes me personally happy to know I have a functioning society. So even though, like, maybe I can do something more productive by not voting, I still gain that happiness from voting. I feel like, it personally makes me happier if I vote, and we're like, hey, I voted, I am part of the society. Like, people like empathetic people like other people who vote, right? So I agree for the voting. That's why I do vote, and that's why I do wash my hands. That's why I do a whole bunch of stuff, right? And anything that's like, you don't have to do this, right? If you're being entirely selfish. But when I get to examples that have much higher consequences, for example, overfishing, where each individual person has pressure to overfish, and if they do not overfish, they will be economically less successful. Then I'm like, I can't blame them for overfishing, because the system encourages it, and it's like, don't hate the player, hate the game.
Right. So I'm not sure what we're disagreeing on still.
I'm just making food for thought.
Oh, right. Okay. Okay.
Shit, we need somebody who believes in objective morality here.
I believe in objective morality.
Wait, how?
I'm a moral realist.
How does that work?
Oh my god, do I have to have this discussion?
No, okay, no.
Are you a moral anti-realist?
Probably.
Oh. Not this again.
Sorry. Okay, you have 3 people on a boat. This is my anti-objective morality.
Right. Let's hear it.
You have 3 people on a boat. 1 young person, 1 middle-aged person, 1 old person.
Mm-hmm.
Kill the old person. Oh, sorry, never mind.
Right. Okay. So they're all gonna starve unless one of them gets killed and eaten.
Okay.
Who do you kill and eat?
I don't know. I don't know enough about any of the people.
Okay, let's say they're all just,
normal people, all the same amount of connections, all things considered.
Yeah.
Well, you would kill the old person. Yeah.
Right. So I would say maybe that's, if you're doing some utilitarian calculus, that's probably the right answer.
It's also the right answer if you're a deontologist.
However, if you believe in objective morality, you would have to accept that the old person will be unethical. He's acting immorally for not accepting this result.
Yes.
So I'm like, I cannot say that. I cannot say that the old person is like morally wrong for not wanting to die and fighting back.
Well, that just sounds like you're being morally inconsistent.
No, it sounds like I can put myself in the shoes of the old person and be like, I don't want to die.
It sounds like you're using psychology as a means for justifying morality.
I'm not making any moral justifications. I'm making what I would expect to see people's behavior will be. Like,
when we're talking about regardless of what the person's behavior is, regardless of your emotional reaction to how you think that the old person would feel, that should be irrelevant about, you know, what their moral oughts should be.
So you believe in moral oughts?
Yeah, of course he does. He's a moral realist.
I'm a moral realist.
Okay, but I thought you were agreeing with me on psychological egoism, which says no moral oughts. Like, you don't need
What?
moral oughts.
No, that's not what psychological egoism says.
Oh, it's the consequences of it.
No, it's not.
People,
It's not at all.
People always behave selfishly.
So, let's say every single person in the world
So
was
if somebody
acted like a
always acts
nihilist.
selfishly, how can you blame them for acting selfishly if they always do it?
Oh, okay. Again, but this is again justifying ethical. And I want to point out here that this. So, are you arguing for moral subjectivism or moral anti-realism? Because there's a difference here.
Okay,
because
what's the difference?
a moral egoist is going to say that moral statements have a truth value. So, for example, should I kill someone? Or, sorry, I'm going to kill someone. Or I ought to kill someone. That's going to have a truth or false value.
Dumb.
That's what the moral realist says. Shut the fuck up, this. Did you just say dumb?
Yep.
Look, the moral realist is going to say that that has a truth value. And the moral...
What if you have a psychopathic person who is, like, has a mental issue and he thinks that he ought to murder somebody, and he thinks that this will save them, or any stupid reason? Like, they were born this way. It's not their fault that this is their desire, or this is their belief.
There's a difference between the moral character of someone and the consequences of their actions. If someone tries to shoot the hostage taker and accidentally shoots the hostage through a freak accident, then the person who took the shot isn't an immoral person, but their action was immoral.
What? Their action was moral? What if they did, like, if they had the statistics about it, and 99% of the time it will hit the guilty person, and 1% of the time it'll hit the
right that
the
they
innocent
have
person.
then
So
they
they
should
have to
take the
make
shot.
this, and then maybe they have to weigh what the consequence if they don't take the shot, and then
Yes.
like and then I would base it off of if they made a decision that, with the given information that they had, is better, like leads to a preferable result.
Okay. Again,
it's unrelated to the concept. Like, it's unrelated to if it actually hit the innocent or guilty person.
right. So there's a difference between the actual action versus the actual, character of the person. And so if someone is so delusional and someone is mentally, they have some sort of mental illness that puts them below what we were going to call the normalcy line, then in reality, we can't blame them for having these, fucked up beliefs, because they don't have that sort of rational autonomy that is necessary for being able to be assigned moral culpability.
Okay, but in that case, is there anybody who's ever morally culpable?
Sure, anyone who's a rational agent.
Is anybody a rational agent?
I don't know what we're getting at here. I feel like
do you
this
believe
is
in
not
free
meant
will?
to. This is not meant to sound like condescending, but I feel like I'm just going to go through the same sort of cycle that I have with a lot of people. I don't think it's going to be interesting for people listening. I can definitely do it. I could do it with you in private time, but I'm just conscious of people watching are going to get bored as fuck about this, and it would be a much better. I think it'd be a better use of everyone's time if, for example, you read a book by Schaefer Landau, which is Introduction to Ethics, and it literally goes through all this stuff that I'm talking about.
Yeah, but I can read a book, but my position is basically that if you understand how the brain works at all, you know that the brain takes inputs from different sensory organs and from memory, and then makes a decision off of those.
I agree with you. Wait, okay, so here's the problem. I agree with you on the science side of this, but the problem, and this is what I've discovered over the past month at least, or month and a half, is that the philosophical side of this is way more in depth than that. It's worthy of more investigation than
it's not as obvious as people think it is. And that's why I said that, like reading Schaefer Landau, for example, it goes through the relevance of, of certain psychological states in moral calculations, and it goes through issues with psychological egoism and normative egoism. And I'm more than happy, like, if you PM me after this, I can or join my server or whatever. That's what the server's there for, is to help guide people in philosophy, because that's really why I come on here, is it gets people interested in philosophy. But I think people would rather me duke it out with Mr. Batman. I think that's what people
Fucking
want.
do it. Drag him in. Do you have any other final memes or thoughts you want to share?
I was supposed to tell... somebody wanted me to tell you that they want to be regulated or something. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. I get it in email sometimes. Someone will go through Cake or Mr. and whatever.
Oh, make me an admin.
Fuck off.
No.
For what it's worth, I agree with your I want to agree with you, Aporia. It's just that what I've found out is that the philosophical investigation is so much more heavy than I assumed it would have been, and it's not as easy as just making like.
But just saying
statements.
it's heavy, like.
Oh yeah.
Just saying what?
It's just saying it's heavy is like, not, but maybe I'll read more into it, but I'm still skeptical.
Oh, sure.
Of course.
Okay.
I was skeptical too. I was a moral anti-realist at one point, so it comes with time and patience. Yeah, good talk. Yeah, PM me if you want to talk again.
All right, be careful.
All right,
hey, is this baby Miku guy about to hit me? Because I swear to fucking God.
He's not gonna hit you. He's not gonna hit you.
No, he might.
He might.
I mean, he just TP'd next to people and he's hitting people, so I mean, like...
Yeah, but you're huge.
I'm not huge. I lost so much
He
shit.
doesn't know that, though. If you're anti-scouted and you're 400 mil, he'd be retarded to hit you.
Okay, make an executive
But he
decision.
does that.
Reinforce someone else.
Yeah,
Okay, never mind. All right, good luck. If I get fucking zeroed, I'm going to hate all of you. I'm disbanding this fucking
You don't need
guild.
to stay there.
Wait, I don't?
Yeah, you could TP out.
Yeah, you just leave. You're fine. Yeah. Just randomly look it out.
Oh.
Yeah, random out.
No, just stay there. Stay there.
Wait, why?
Because he can track you through the forest.
Oh. Yeah, and if I random relocate, it looks real bad.
He won't hit you.
Okay, if he does, I'm
Just
gonna.
as long as you have anti-scout.
I got anti-scout 8 hours. I'm gonna be real mad.
Hey, if you're reinforcing Sky, speed up so you can leave. Because
Hey,
if not, Baby's gonna follow you.
I'll bait him to.
All right, where's Mr. Batman? Wait, Rem, you have to bring him here.
Yo, can you guys link me cool sock places to buy from? Thanks.
Sock places?
Yeah, I want some cool ass socks, dude.
Okay.
He's in some stupid convo with some dummy in politics, and he's not responding to
Okay,
my
hold on.
DMs
I'll
now.
get him in. Hold on.
The only thing, sir, I can do is shut the mouth of the unbeliever. And I will admit, sir, you've been very kind and you've been very gracious about your questions, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, I just try to make some headway. I normally can only go for a few minutes before I need to just sit down.
And that's perfectly acceptable, sir. I have short-term memory
When
loss, so I
Monster
can't
Hunter
squirrel.
World
Never mind, I've
plays.
also have OCD, too.
Hey,
Try
Mr.
so hard
Batman,
to
what's
be
up, dude?
Duncan, but he's not good at it.
Don't do it. Don't fall into his trap. Don't do it.
Wait, what's up? Oh, wait,
Don't
am I
do
still
what,
serving
sir?
it? Fuck!
Don't fucking do it, man. Don't fucking do it.
I'm sorry, don't do what, sir?
He just told you.
Next.
I was going on about I was asking Destiny yesterday about like this weird Skype thing that happened a few years ago because I never heard him apologize, but then I realized that he couldn't possibly know what I was talking about because he's been involved in so much.
Hey, Mr.
young
Batman,
girl
what's up, dude?
underage drama.
Oh my god, are you actually Destiny?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, he is.
Mr. Batman, how you doing, dude?
I'm quite well, and how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Hey, I've got a friend that wants to ask a few questions. Do you want to chat with him for a little bit?
Destiny.
I don't mind.
Okay, cool. This is like a real clusterfuck of a server. Can we move to like a private server, a private room? Is that okay, or?
Don't do it, Batman. I want to hear it all.
Sir, if I'm going to preach, I want to preach where people can hear me.
Agreed.
Wait, you can stream
Amen.
it? Because I'll watch
He's
the
streaming it. Yeah, he's streaming it.
It's a debate channel. It's perfectly, he gets his chance to speak.
All right, Mr. Batman, I've got a friend named Rem, and I think he's a really arrogant atheist. I think he thinks too highly of his atheist beliefs, and I would love to see you...
Destiny's I mean, whatever.
Oy vey!
Come on.
Oh,
Fucking
come
on.
Destiny's trolling his own
yes,
stream.
sir. And he's probably right up there with you with
might
your
be.
arrogance as well, sir.
Yeah, I think
So-
he might be. He's even worse than me. It's Rem. Okay, that's the
He
guy
needs
who wants to
humbled.
talk to you. His name is Rem. I need you to humble this guy, Mr. Batman.
No worries, sir. How may I help you, sir?
Oh, wait, Rem is still muted
Hey,
because of
Destiny.
Darth. Hold on.
Well, Rem's just
doing little girls on the internet.
Wait, Mr. Batman, you don't have server muting powers, do you?
Oh no, I sure do not.
He will mute
No
you
offense,
privately. though.
you'd
Don't-
probably
He's not afraid of that.
use them more than Darth.
No, actually, I don't abuse my powers, as I told other people before when I had mod powers, I treat everybody exactly the same. From the owner of the server to the person who just joined, I treat everybody exactly the same.
He muted me for saying Jesus healed herpes on my testicles, and the thing is I was being serious.
It's true. Yeah, it happened. I
He
watched
muted
it.
me for saying the Big Bang wasn't necessarily the beginning of the universe.
It wasn't.
I got muted just for laughing.
Yeah, too bad though. He doesn't understand what he's talking about.
Dude, who gets
Not
muted
Adam.
for being healed by Jesus?
Oh, okay. Rem is up to go. All right, Mr. Batman, could you engage this guy, this hedonist, in a conversation? I want to see you.
Yes,
slay him.
Let me get my headset on because my air conditioner just kicked on.
Oh boy, let's do this.
I get the feeling
Dude,
Rem's secretly a
boy.
shitty argumentalist, and this is just like...
I don't even know what an argumentalist is. So.
Oh, dude, you don't know about
It's
internet
English.
philosophy terms?
I don't know the internet terms. But can we not do this in like a private call where people aren't constantly yelling?
It's a
'Cause
fucking politics
absolute
room, man.
cancerous.
We will definitely shut up. You'd be surprised.
Because Destiny's streaming to like what 3K people right now. So, Mr. Batman, if you would do a private discussion, then you're
Discord
still
greater
thank
than
you.
Twitch.
Not interested.
Hey, I got a question. Are you
All right,
still trying
Rem,
to
fire away,
CJF?
dude.
There we go.
Okay, what are we gonna? So, how?
Okay, I got my headset on, ready to go. Yes, sir. You have a question?
Yes, how similar are your views to Darth Dawkins?
Well, we're both Bible-believing Christians.
Okay.
Adam,
Do you?
Stellar Bob.
Let's say that for example, I would classify myself as maybe a instrumentalist. I don't believe in any sort of categorical imperative. I don't believe in God. I don't believe.
Sir, I gotta ask you a question.
Feel free.
What does that crap mean?
Well, for one, I believe that when I say that I don't think we can have knowledge of metaphysical entities, that is things that transcend our experience.
Really? Then wait a minute. How do you know that, sir?
Because ultimately, wait, how do I know that I can't know things
Yes,
that
sir.
transcend my experience?
Well, how do you know, sir? You're making a claim, sir. How do you know
Yes.
that claim? You just made a claim. Did you not just make a truth claim?
So how do I know that I can't know things that I could never possibly know?
No, sir. You're making a knowledge claim. You're saying that you cannot know something, sir. Do you agree that that's a positive statement?
What? No, I'm saying that my claim is that it's impossible to have knowledge of metaphysical
Great. Okay,
entities.
sir. Again, you're making a claim, a truth claim about a metaphysical statement, sir. Is that true that you're making?
No, I'm making an
epistemological.
No, I'm making an epistemological claim.
Oh,
I'm not making a
great.
metaphysical claim.
Super. So how do you know that?
Again,
This is like having sex
it's
with
an
a pork.
epistemological claim about
So
the
what is it?
necessary.
I'm serious, sir. I think your problem is with your definitions. What do you mean by your epistemological claim?
Oh my
do you
God.
get to claim it, and because you claim it, that makes it true?
Okay, so let me better explain myself so that we're not just constantly talking past.
Sir,
each
I
other.
just
think
want a
that's-
yes or no question. Do you get to claim it, and because you claim it, that makes it true?
No, absolutely not. So I'd love to
Great.
hear
I'm
you
glad, I'm
explain
glad
to
we
me.
live in the real world, sir, in real time. So let's talk about things that exist in the real world in real time, shall we?
Right. So can you tell me what's wrong with my claim?
Yes, sir. It doesn't comport with reality. So you're living in
Can
a
you explain to
fantasy
me
world,
how
sir.
it doesn't comport with reality?
Absolutely, sir. Because wouldn't you agree that the laws of logic are metaphysical claims?
No, I would not, because I just said
So
that
what are they then,
metaphysical
sir?
claims
What are
may
they?
be- They are instruments that are tools to arriving at some moral end.
Great. Since they're not metaphysical, where do they reside in the physical?
They don't reside in the physical,
Oh,
as I
so
just
they
said.
are metaphysical. So you just
No,
change your
I
position.
said they are not.
Okay,
They are
then,
not
sir,
metaphysical.
If they're not metaphysical, then that means they are of the physical. Do you understand the difference?
Do you understand the difference that is not what that means?
Sir,
That's not what metaphysical means.
I'm gonna go ahead and slow it down for you just a little bit. So let me bring it down to a more elementary level so you can understand. Sir, don't worry. I work with special needs children like you all the time.
I see.
So
Thank you.
let me go ahead and help you out, sir.
Okay.
One smart hillbilly.
Again, sir, when
Yes.
you're talking about a metaphysical claim like the laws of logic, these are laws that exist outside of the physical. Metaphysical. Would you agree that these laws exist outside of the physical?
No, because ultimately laws of logic, as I've said, are merely instruments. They are dependent on the human mind.
Great, sir. No, sir, they're not dependent on the human mind. And I
Can you
prove
explain
that.
to me why they are not? Yes.
I'm
Sir,
about to
can
mute
you
you.
tell me?
This is
Sir,
why I
can
don't
you
like
tell me
doing
why
this.
they're not?
He muted you.
No, I didn't mute you. I'm turning your volume down because you're an offense to my senses, is what you are, sir. So, again, we're talking about these laws of logic.
Yes.
Sir, would you agree that in order to think that you have to have certain necessary preconditions in play in order to have your very first thought?
I disagree that there are necessary conditions like logic.
Really?
Really?
So how do you know where the laws... Would you like for me to demonstrate to you, sir, that the laws of logic are eternal, universal,
Yes.
and unchanging?
Please.
Great. Would you agree, sir, that in the beginning, the universe could not have both existed and not existed at the same time in the same way?
As I've said, something like that is purely metaphysical. I can't possibly
Yes, sir.
ever
And,
know
sir,
in my
sir,
experience.
Would you agree that in the metaphysical state of the physical world, we use metaphysical laws such as the laws of logic and the laws of natural science in order to observe the real world? And sir, in that observation, in that science, we have never observed anything both existing and not existing at the same time in the same way.
As I've said before, I don't believe that scientific laws
I
are
don't care
somehow
what you
objective.
believe, sir. Not interested in your belief. Do you know what, sir? The truth does not care about your belief. It does not care about
Can
your
you define
opinion.
truth to me?
And it
What is
doesn't-
truth?
Truth is that which comports to reality, sir. Truth
So
is
it's a
that which is
correspondence
real.
theory of
So,
truth.
sir, you know what? I love having conversations, especially with people like yourself who think they know something. But, sir,
Right.
if you're going to be stupid and talk over me, the teacher will stop teaching.
You're not a teacher. You're a teacher.
Okay, okay. Let's take. Yes, I absolutely agree. Okay, look. Let's try to start over here. Let's go through my position. Can I briefly explain my position?
No, I don't know. I don't think you can briefly explain it, sir. I know that you reject
let me try.
God. On what, sir? On what is your basis for truth?
Right. So can I briefly explain my position so we can get it?
I don't know,
totally
sir.
crystal
If you're
clear?
asking permission, that would be may I.
Okay, may I? May I,
Yes,
dear?
sir, you may. Please give it an attempt. Please keep it under a minute.
Yes. So the instrumentalist approach to philosophy, it denies what we call categorical ends. So something that is going to be objective, eternal, true outside of our experience, and it posits that ultimately everything that we say, any sort of descriptive theory, is ultimately just a tool for arriving at some hypothetical end. So, for example, I would say that atoms exist because saying so allows me to increase the net utility of the world. But that doesn't mean that the net utility of the world is somehow good in itself. It's just that it's just a tool for arriving at that end. And likewise, the laws of logic, I say, are true only because they hypothetically allow me to arrive at something like, maximizing utility or maximizing the categorical imperative of Kant, which I'm not claiming is a.
Oh my gosh, are you done yet?
Yes. Can you please tell me what's wrong with that?
Thank you very much. Let me go ahead and tell you something real quick, sir. Each and every one of those statements you said required the law of identity. Every single one of them. Sir, that law of identity has to pre-exist your ability to have that very first thought. I've also demonstrated, sir, that the laws of logic are eternal, universal, and changing, because we know that in the beginning of all things, in the beginning of all time, space, and matter, that the universe could not have both existed and not existed at the same time in the same way. Sir, this violates a known law of contradiction, the law of non-contradiction, sir. Now, let me go ahead and point something out to you.
What? Sorry,
I'm sorry, sir. I'm going to go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm going to put you to death real quick. Here's what's called the death blow,
Praise God.
okay? Here we go. Ready? Your head's getting ready to be lopped off. Sir, would you agree that you have to acknowledge that all of the real world, everything in the natural world, works under uniform law-like patterns?
Do you have me undeafened?
Sir, would you agree that
You
the
have me
world
deafened.
works under uniform law-like patterns?
He has me deafened.
No, sir, I do not.
Oh,
I'm
you
asking
don't have me
you
deafened
again.
anymore. Okay.
Would you agree that
No.
all of reality works under
No.
uniform law-like patterns?
No, and also
Then
I
there's
don't
no
believe.
sense in talking because you deny science. Then have a nice day.
Actually,
Oh, man, that was
I
sweet.
disagree. Like for example, you said
You
that's the
see,
law of
somebody like this who
contradiction.
denies the laws of science, known laws of logic, known laws of science, and say no, they don't exist. They're just beyond ignorant. They're stupid. See, this is a kind of Proverbs 18:2 kind of person. The fool has no desire for understanding, but only in expressing his opinion.
Batman, nobody
Repent
wants
or
to-
perish, sir. Repent or
Mr.
perish.
Batman, I got a question. Are you just a Darth Dawkins wannabe?
No, sir. I'm a redneck version of Darth Dawkins. That's why I cut right to the issue.
Wait,
You
Darth
see, Darth would
Dawkins
have
is a
taken
redneck.
45 minutes to get there.
Batman, do you
Darth is
still
a
think that
redneck
the Big Bang is categorically the beginning of the universe?
Well, no, sir. God is the categorically the beginning of the universe.
Can you justify the principle of contradiction for me?
You see,
Non-contradiction.
without God, you don't have any causation. You see, we know that all time,
Does he have me
space, and
deafened?
matter had a beginning. Everything in the physical world, time, space, and
Does
matter
he have me
had a
deafened?
beginning. So whatever caused,
Could someone
time,
ask him to
space,
justify
and
the
matter
principle of
to come into
contradiction?
existence, by definition, would have to be timeless.
Someone
faceless,
ask him.
immaterial,
Batman, can you
all-powerful,
justify
all-knowing,
the principle of
and
non-contradiction?
A personal agent God. That's the way that works.
Wait, Mr. Batman. Let me ask you this question. Why is it that God chose to reveal Himself in the year 0?
I don't know, Destiny. The guy's a fucking idiot.
Hold on. Mr. Batman, why did
No, he
God...
can't hear me, Lumpy. Don't worry.
All right, Mr. Batman, let me
Yes,
ask,
sir. Go ahead and ask your question.
it's a serious question. Why did, and this is something that the atheist Christopher Hitchens often posed to many religious people, which is why
Sir,
did
ask your question, sir. Go ahead. I'm not afraid of it.
why did he chose to reveal to a bunch of illiterate people in the Middle East and not reveal it? Let's say, why did he wait like 100,000 years to only reveal the revelation in a specific part of a specific geographical part of the world? Why did he choose to reveal it?
I'm sorry, sir. It's just funny
he
when you
came
say
to India,
silly stuff like this. Because, sir, let's go ahead and point something out to you, sir.
I'm
sorry, sir. I'm sorry. I wasn't done.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Let me point something out to you, sir.
All right,
Again, the fact of the matter is that God has revealed Himself to all of the creatures created in His image, sir. That's every human being ever created knows the God of the Bible because God has made them know it, sir. The question is a fail right from the very start.
Sir.
No, but you are familiar with...
Sir, God allowed us to know that our eyes are
Mr.
reliable. And that's circular. But that's okay. Because I read in the Bible.
That's okay, sir. Most people don't.
Mr.
I'm not a Christian, so I'm trying to see from a Christian perspective. I just want to agree with the TAG justification. So, like,
Batman, do you have me muted?
For me, whenever I was a kid, I read the Bible, right? And I came to find Christ, but I had to use my senses to do that. And I don't understand. It's hard for me to understand how someone can grow up, use their senses to find Christ, and then look at the Bible and say, "Oh, wait, the senses are just." You can say that your senses are justified by Christ. Like, I don't, because if you assume that Christ led you to your senses after you use your senses to come to Christ, it kind of like contradicts
That's
itself.
not the way it works.
Oh,
May I-
okay.
may I
Yeah,
help with
please,
it?
please.
Great. See, sir, in order for you to have the ability to have senses, God has to put them in the physical world and put them in a physically functional fashion. Oh, excuse me. Well, we got all these trolls in here now.
Hey, Rem, can I talk to you about moral anti-realism?
Sure.
So again, so when it comes right down to it, sir, now I don't even forgot where I was going. Sorry.
PM me. If you want to talk to me, just PM me.
I PM'd you a minute ago.
That's what we're talking
Oh.
about, right?
Oh,
Epistemological
yes, you did.
circularity being legitimate, but circularity, like, presupposing our sense, our
Okay.
reason to justify our senses.
Excuse me. Yes, I'm sorry. I got distracted. Again, sir. Yes, in order to be able to have that ability to reason at all, before you can have that first thought, that first inkling about your feelings and about your data coming in from your senses, number one, you have to have causal connection. That is, all of the real world is causally connected. And that is the law of cause and effect. Without that law of causality, the law of cause and effect, everything being causally connected, and that causal connection needing the laws of logic, which you can identify, compare, contrast, then, sir, you cannot have your first thought,
Hi,
let
chat.
alone being able to reason at all. So this only
You can't
comes
hear
from
me.
the ability of God. God wants us to know Him. So that's why the law. That's why all creation is logical, because God is logical. That's why all creation is mathematical and knowable and measurable, because God wants us to know everything
Do you
about
think he was born this way? Do you think he was raised
that makes
like
a lot of
this?
sense to me.
Fatman, do you,
my only
Oh yeah,
you
but
have
how do you
when
know
you-
God's real?
Right
There's so
question
many
is-
people
is
talking.
Why can you use this circular reasoning?
I did try. I tried.
We
I did.
cannot.
I gave an honest effort.
Well,
but-
sir, I don't
You
have
told you about-
circular reasoning. I have what's called an absolute authority. There's a difference.
Oh.
Mida, shitta, mootin'. What up?
How's your game going?
Okay.
Did you win the debate, dude?
Yeah, I'm just torturing a friend.
Nice, dude. You won the debate too? What a big brain you have, Steve. You fucking rock hard right now.
Destiny, what the fuck was that?
Did you have fun?
No, that was worse than Darth Dawkins.
Yeah, he was pretty bad.
Like
that's the guy that I said has the mold damage in his house or whatever.
he has the what?
He had
Sorry?
mold damage, and so he had like
Mole or mold?
Mold. How do you have mold damage?
How do you
What the
I don't know.
fuck
That's
does that
why.
even
That's why I
fucking
was very
mean?
confused. Yeah.
What do you mean? He had black mold damage?
Yeah, something that like he said like he had impacted his brain or something.
Oh yes. Right.
Type 1 if you heard mole damage. Just type 1. I'm just curious. Maybe
I
I'm
heard
stupid.
mold.
Thank
I
you.
did. Type 2 if you heard mold, not mold.
Okay, a lot of people fucking heard mole.
Well, I'm seeing a
Why
lot
I
of
was so
twos. I
fucking
don't know.
confused,
Yeah, I've googled it. How to remove black mold damage to health. Oh, I see. These spores, if ingested or inhaled, can cause a range of unpleasant and even dangerous symptoms in humans, such as delusional religious blathering and actual mental illness, which explains a lot. No, it says chronic coughing and sneezing.
Oh, he said he had like brain damage from it, so maybe he lied.
I don't see anything here about brain damage. Unless he like, no, I don't know. It doesn't say anything about brain damage. But I'm also not. I'm not a doctor, so. Oh yeah, here we go. Black mold, permanent brain damage. Oh shit.
Uh-oh.
Toxic mold and how it affects the brain. Mold may mean bad news for the brain. Oh my god.
Sequences spun, swarm.
Insomnia, anxiety, depression, confusion, trouble concentrating, and confusion. The sightless confusion twice.
Maybe the guy's got toxic mold shit. Oh shit.
Yeah. You should see a doctor about that. Well, I guess he already did. God. I don't get it. I don't get why people... No, I just repeat the exact same fucking thing I said last time. It's absolutely ridiculous. But the other people, you don't usually talk to people like that, right? You actually talk to people who are
No.
at least a bit
Most of the people,
charitable.
So I had a discussion one time with Hold on, let me finish this game real quick. This fucker won't just fucking leave.
Hey, Mr. Mouton.
What?
Do you play cribbage?
Nope.
Oh. Moot. Oh, I pronounced it wrong. How do I pronounce it?
Mootin.
Mootin. Oh shit. I see. Oh, my bad.
Not possible. Supply limit reached. Mineral field exhausted.
Mootin.
Just call me daddy.
No thanks.
That's what chat calls me anyways.
Okay, so like here's an example of like a statement somebody making. So like pragmatically, I'm essentially a determinist, and that I believe that like everything is predetermined in terms of our actions and all that. Or at the very
you can't
least,
be a pragmatic determinist.
well, I mean, if you're a materialist, you can be, because I think you're necessarily a determinist at that point, right?
I think it's pragmatic to say we have free will more so.
Or
than...
I'm sorry, okay, fuck, I should have defined when I said pragmatic. When I say pragmatic, what I mean is that like when I think of like applying policy or when I think of positions like that, I kind of look at things from a determinist point of view. So for instance, like somebody might say, well, these people can make better choices, and my response would be, okay, well, let's give them an environment that empowers them to make better choices, right? Would be the difference, yeah. So there was a guy that I argued with once for like 2 hours, and like 30 minutes into the conversation, I kind of had to lay out my position on free will, because a lot of people get like really tripped up in these like really dumb things where they're, basically they say things like, well, I think that we can fix these problems by telling these people to all make better choices. And it's like, okay, nothing works that way. And after I had a conversation with this guy, and I spent like 30 minutes trying to describe like my position on free will. And, essentially I said, I don't believe that people can like, really truly make like free choices, like independent of external influence or anything. So I'm in favor of making it so that people, so that people have environments that empowers them to make better decisions, et cetera, et cetera. Well, like an hour later into our debate, we were getting into a discussion on like welfare or education or something. And I said something along the lines of like, I think that when people are better educated, it generally gives them better options in life, that, they can make better choices for employment and whatnot. And the guy was like, aha, I see, I gotcha. And I'm like, wait, what do you mean? And he's like, so you do believe people can make choices? That's the level of person that I typically.
Well, it sounds semantic.